ahead and introduce our speaker of the night. So let me pull up her little bio thing. So we have Miss Kelsey Brewer, who is going to be speaking with us tonight. She's a graduate of Valparaiso University, where she received her Master of Arts degree in clinical mental health counseling. She is nationally certified counselor and is a licensed mental health counselor associate. Ms. Brewer has clinical experience in a range of different settings with varied populations, including a treatment center for autism and neurodevelopment disorders, a university counseling center, and a residential treatment facility for adolescents. She integrates techniques and approaches, mainly drawing from emotion-focused therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, dialectical behavior therapy, and solution-focused therapy. She often utilizes strengths-based and mindfulness-based approaches, and she is also a 4-H alum. So without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce to you all Miss Kelsey Brewer.
Hi guys. It's nice to meet all of you, and I'm glad I kind of got that icebreaker. Can you guys hear me okay, by the way? Okay, perfect. So Shelby basically kind of covered a lot of it. I am Kelsey. I am a 4-H alum. I was in junior leaders for a few years as well. I am from the Center Wildcats 4-H Club, but I was also in junior leaders for a few years. I'm originally from Valpo, Porter County. That was kind of my fare growing up. And then I did my undergrad at Purdue in West Lafayette, and then came back to Valpo to do my master's, like Shelby said. So before I kind of like jump over to some of the slides that I have for you guys, I just want to give a huge shout out to Shelby and Joan and everyone that was interested in this topic area. Obviously, it couldn't be more prevalent, relevant, you know, with COVID going on and everything like that. The fact that you guys wanted more content on mental health, I just love that. Because I definitely think that, you know, in schools and stuff, it's not always talked about. I know that it wasn't something that I really got too much into until I got to college. So the fact that you guys wanted more content on that is awesome. So before I share my screen with you guys, and I have a couple slides, just a disclaimer to start out. I don't want you guys to feel like I'm talking at you. That's like my least favorite thing to do. So because I think you guys get that whether you're in person for school or online. I think you guys get that enough. So I definitely want this to be more informal and interactive. I know that can be kind of hard over Zoom, but I definitely want to be more interactive and informal with you guys. So if you guys have any questions, there will be things that I ask you guys to kind of share on or whatever. But if you guys have any questions, we can do that at the end. But I also I want to be like mindful of your guys' time too, and kind of keep things short and sweet for you guys. Okay, so I will go ahead and share my screen with you guys. Oh, Joan, I think you're gonna have to like allow me to share my screen.
Let me figure this out. I thought I had it set to allow.
It's okay. This is something that we ran into a lot in my online classes too.
Okay, now I think you should be able to.
Okay.
Give it a whirl.
Yes, I am. Okay. Let me see. Okay. I may have to download my presentation actually because it isn't letting me just like go over my screen, I don't think. So it's okay. We'll like navigate these technical difficulties together. It's all part of it. It's all part of this craziness, right? Okay. Okay, can you guys see that? Okay. If I do this, can you guys still see it? Is it in like the present mode? Okay, perfect. So hopefully this continues to go smoothly. So just to kind of like start off with, can you guys see that like second slide? Perfect, okay. So typically when you guys think about like mental health versus mental illness, what do you guys think mental health is and what do you guys think mental illness is? Just kind of briefly sharing on that. When you guys think about either one of those, what do you think? What kind of jumps to mind?
I've always thought mental health was more like mental well-being.
Yeah, definitely. What do you guys think about when you think about mental illness? Like what jumps to mind for you guys?
I think of like depression and anxiety and OCD. Those are just a couple, I guess.
Awesome. Yeah. So I think depression and anxiety are definitely ones that jump to mind for a lot of people. And those are really going to be the main ones that kind of come up throughout like my talking to you guys. Obviously there are a bunch, but my point in asking that though is that COVID has kind of turned what mental health and mental illness look like around. So when I was talking to Shelby before I came and talked to you guys, I kind of got a sense of what, at least from her, what you guys are kind of feeling and dealing with right now. So I kind of compiled some of those notes and some of the things that I know that I felt particularly personally, and things that I deal with my clients and things like that. So a huge one is obviously uncertainty. We don't know about how long the pandemic will go on and how our lives will kind of continue to change by it. And because of that, we feel really lonely, isolated, especially you guys that are going to school online potentially, not getting to see those friends that you would typically see kind of routinely if you're going to school in person. Alter daily routines. Anxiety we'll talk a little bit more about later, but just the future of the pandemic, and then also getting sick or friends and family getting sick. One thing that I do want to stress to you guys is knowing that all of these things that you might be feeling about COVID are completely okay. It's completely valid, and there are going to be tons of emotions and tons of mental health things that come up with COVID, and it's all okay. And we're all kind of trying to, I know that you guys probably hear this like cliche thing all the time, but we really are all in this together, and we really are navigating through this together. When I interned back when I interned at one of my internship sites, one of the therapists there said that COVID, as isolating as it can be, it's like the biggest collective thing that everyone can relate to. And I think that's a really good way of kind of thinking about it, because it can feel really isolating and like you're kind of going through it alone, but it's really like the biggest collective thing that has affected everyone. So going on from there though, I think one of the core things to start off talking about before we get more into the mental health side of things is taking care of physical health. because when we do this, I think that it can really have impacts on mental health as well. So getting enough sleep, that if you don't get enough sleep, we're irritable, we're just exhausted, we're not motivated, and so that can really affect the way that we think and interact with people. So I know that, there are probably times where you don't sleep all the night before and you get up and people are wanting things from you and you're just like, nope, I'm not about it today. So getting enough sleep, as we consider it more of like a physical health thing, but it can really have mental health benefits. So trying to limit that blue light at night, as we know, it disrupts your sleep. It's something that can be kind of hard to do. I think it can be really easy to just lay in bed and look at your phone or whatever, but trying to limit that, like I said, trying to limit doing homework in bed, because that your brain can kind of start to associate your bed with being awake. So if you are having trouble sleeping, getting up and walking around can be really helpful. Going downstairs, if your room's upstairs, going downstairs, kind of like walking around, taking some laps, getting some water, and then trying to go back to bed. It might seem kind of counterintuitive, but that can be a really big thing to kind of improve your sleep. With exercise, that can also be a really big mental health benefit as well as physical. There are a lot of apps and YouTube videos that are easy to do at home, even with no equipment or workout stuff. And then diet, trying to eat balanced meals and drinking enough water. Obviously, we kind of think of that as a physical health thing, but that can really impact mental health as well. One thing that I kind of like to think of eating as is intuitive eating. So you guys might have heard a little bit about this. It's kind of a buzzword right now, but it's really just the idea of eating, not restricting things, eating things in moderation. So like if you want a cookie and you eat 5 different other things because you want a cookie, to avoid that cookie, then you're probably going to end up eating more than you would have if you would have just eaten the cookie. So that's the way that I kind of like to think of it. Just eating balanced and eating in moderation can really impact mental health. So, going on from there, one thing that, and this will kind of be touched on in a couple slides later, one of the things that's really important with mental health is recognizing common symptoms. So I don't think that, especially in the past couple years leading up to now, mental health the stigma behind it has really come a long way. And, just the fact that you guys were willing to have me kind of talk through some of this stuff with you really kind of shows how far mental health has come and how acceptable it is to talk about. But I think that, the extent to which it's talked about is still pretty limited. So being able to recognize these symptoms in yourself, in your friends, is really important. Not trying to label anybody with a diagnosis, but when you can kind of recognize these things as, okay, like this might be an anxiety symptom, then you can know, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, then you can know what to do about it, okay? So, racing thoughts, overthinking, excessive worrying, increased heart rate, breathing, kind of that like shallow breathing, just feeling kind of shaky. Another big thing is physical symptoms. So a little bit about me, kind of like a personal detail. When I was in high school, I would get like really bad like stomach pain every so often. And looking back, I really think that it was on days where I was a little bit more anxious or a little bit more worried about school or stressed. And so just knowing that sometimes those like physical symptoms can really be kind of underlying anxiety. Decreased ability to concentrate and sleep. And then, irritability is another one as well. And depression. just like more frequent negative moods, feelings of hopelessness, loss of interest in activities you used to like, talking negatively about yourself. So if you go throughout your day and kind of notice the way that you think about yourself. So if you mess up on an exam or like a test or something, you know, thinking, okay, I'm really stupid, I'm not going to pass this class, I'm not going to get to whatever goal I want, that can be something that kind of all falls under the umbrella of negative self-talk. And that can be something that can definitely come up with those more depressive symptoms and those more anxiety symptoms, decreased motivation, and changes in appetite. So the reason, again, that I'm kind of going through some of these symptoms with you guys is not to, not so you guys can just like label yourself or your friends with diagnoses like this, but just to kind of have a greater awareness of these things. And, you know, we're going to talk about ways to, in just a minute, we're going to talk about ways to kind of deal with some of these things, because I think, you know, during COVID, these things are a lot more likely to come up. And it doesn't mean, okay, like you for sure have anxiety or you for sure have depression or whatever other mental health diagnosis. But I think that just kind of having a greater awareness of some of the symptoms can kind of tell you, okay, you know, I might need to use some of my coping strategies. Right now, feeling kind of some of this increased anxiety or depression. So with that, it's kind of summed up nicely in this little like infographic, I guess. So like I said earlier, your concerns are valid. It's totally normal to feel worried, to feel stressed. You guys have a lot of things going on and you guys have had to adapt to a lot in a very short amount of time. And so it's totally normal to feel stressed. It's totally normal to feel, you know, worried about all the uncertainty that's being thrown at us. So like I said, recognizing the signs of anxiety, of depression, things like that, can really help you to know, okay, this is what I'm feeling, and like we'll talk about in a second, this is what I can do about it. Right now, like I said, there's a lot of things that are unpredictable, and you guys have had to adapt to a lot in a really short amount of time. So recognizing things that you can control is going to be one of the things that we talk about in just a second. So you can control things like how much you read articles and how much you look at your phone and scroll through social media and things like that. You can, you know, you can control the things that you're doing in your free time, and, you know, like staying in touch with loved ones, practicing meditation. We'll talk a little bit more about meditation in a second, exercising, things like that. So these things that you can control, recognizing those and using those to kind of manage some of the stress and anxiety that you might be feeling right now. You guys continue to hear me, okay? Like, just wanted to check in on that. Can you like see the slides as they're going to? Okay, perfect. So some coping strategies. So I just went through all of those symptoms with you and anxiety stuff, depression stuff. And so, you know, now kind of thinking of, okay, what can we do about this? So you guys have probably heard some of these things recommended before, but keeping a routine. So not only for school, but also extracurriculars such as 4-H, right? So you guys have these junior leader meetings. You guys have your 4-H meetings. You know, going to those the same as you would if things were normal is a really good way to kind of manage some of that stress, manage that anxiety, because it kind of keeps that normal stuff in place, right? Limiting screen time. So like I said earlier, you know, this is really hard when, you know, we have classes that are online, we have meetings like this that are online, but just kind of limiting and being intentional about the time that you do spend on your screens. So I know that iPhones, I'm not an Android person, so I don't know if you Android people have this feature, but iPhones have a app limit feature that you can set a certain amount of time on social media apps or whatever it is. and it'll kind of shut you down on the app and kind of close you out of it after that time. So that's just kind of an intentional way to try to limit the amount of time that you're scrolling through social media or spending time on screens. Starting a new hobby. So this is something that I know that back in March and April, start of COVID and quarantine, everybody was doing their random hobbies and, making bread and doing all the things. So starting a new hobby though, things that you guys might not have time to do, when everything is normal and you have everything going on. So painting, drawing, baking, those can be really good things to, if you enjoy those things, to kind of start getting back into, when we have a little bit more of a flexible schedule. Keeping connected to friends. I know that you guys that are maybe doing school online might feel a little more isolated from your friends. And so making a schedule to talk to them, and being kind of intentional about what you guys are talking about. I think that, thinking about topics, thinking about, okay, do we really want to spend this time talking about school or COVID or whatever's going on? Trying to maintain that normal and talk about things that you would normally talk about with your friends. There are other kinds of things that you can do with each other. I know that there are certain apps where you can, play games with each other. And so kind of maybe like doing that on a Zoom call or something like that to keep connected to friends and kind of, especially as it's getting colder, as you guys can't do things outside as easily, planning these times to Zoom or FaceTime, doing some sort of game on the Zoom call, on the FaceTime. Those can be really positive ways to kind of keep in contact with friends and things like that. So another one is just reframing those negative thoughts to positive ones. So like I talked about earlier, the ways that we talk to ourselves can really impact our mood. So if you catch yourself thinking, I'm stupid because I failed this test, kind of catching yourself in that thought and reframing it to, okay, this was one exam and I can do better on the next one, things like that. So kind of reframing, being able to catch those negative thoughts and turn them into positive ones. Also kind of going along with friends for the holidays. This is a major stress point for a lot of people right now, knowing that the holidays are going to look different. So calling, Zooming, FaceTiming family members you might not be getting together with, and keeping other traditions the same. So if you decorate your tree while watching a Christmas movie, that's something that you could definitely keep the same, to kind of maintain that normal a little bit. All right. So I told you guys that we were going to talk about mindfulness a little bit more. So this little graphic is something that I literally teach all of my clients, because I think it's a really easy way to kind of become more aware of your breathing and kind of calm yourself down during those times where you might feel a little bit more stressed or a little bit more anxiety. So this is called 4 square breathing or box breathing. So the way that this works, you see where it says inhale at the top. So you'll inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds, and then sit at the bottom for 4 seconds, and then just repeat the square. So that's something that's really easy to do when you guys are sitting on Zoom calls or sitting in class. And the reason why I like this so much is because no one has to know that you're doing it. So that's just a really easy way to kind of become more aware of your breathing, because I think when we get stressed, our breathing can become a lot faster and we can kind of get more shallow with it. And so if we know how to kind of slow that down a little bit, it can really help to calm those nerves, bring that anxiety down. There are also, I know that meditation and mindfulness are kind of buzzwords in therapy right now. So apps like Insight Timer, Headspace, Calm, those can be really good ones. We have our phones with us a lot, and so having those specific apps that can kind of help guide you through some of the meditation mindfulness stuff can be really helpful. Those of you that have Apple Watches, I have one. I'm guilty of kind of looking at that a lot, and so those of you that have Apple Watches, they have the little like breathe feature, and so it'll remind you to breathe at literally like the most random times, it seems like, but sometimes it's kind of scary because at least mine, it'll remind me to breathe when I might be feeling really stressed. So I don't know how it senses that, but it's kind of scary. So using that is very similar to the box breathing thing that I just kind of described for you guys. So that can be a really easy thing, like it's just right on your wrist, to kind of help slow that breathing down. Okay. All right. So you guys probably, going along with meditation and mindfulness kind of being buzzwords in therapy, you guys probably hear a lot about self-care. And I feel like a lot of times this can really get misconstrued as, okay, well, I have to, have a bubble bath with candles and doing all the things. But self-care, when it really comes down to it, it's what it sounds like, doing things for yourself. So, like exercising, that's something for yourself. It's good for you. And that's something that's something that you can do to take care of yourself. Yoga, journaling is a big one that we kind of talk about with mental health. Things that you're grateful for, like Shelby in the icebreaker, asking things that you're grateful for. It's pretty relevant to the season that we're in now. Another big one for journaling is self-affirmations. So taking a quality that you like about yourself. So let's say I'm strong because I adapted to all the stuff that's going on in the world, or I'm strong because I made it through whatever thing. So that's a really good way to kind of reframe some of these negative thoughts that we think about ourselves a lot into more positive ones. Reading, going for a walk, listening to music, watching your favorite show or movie. So Netflix is a big one. Spending time with your pets, and then spending time with family and planning activities together. A couple of other kind of going along with mindfulness and meditation and things like that. Another really big one that I like to use and I like to teach my clients is called the 5 senses. So it's what it sounds like, going through your 5 senses and picking out things around you that you can see, that you can touch, that you can smell, and kind of pushing yourself to, so like right now in the room that I'm in, I see a blue chair, and then pushing myself to kind of see what's one more thing, and not just sticking to sight, because I think that can be a really easy one, but also hearing. If you're in a pretty quiet room, you're going to have to kind of stop and think about, okay, what can I hear right now? And that can be a really good one to kind of get you out of your head. And because I think a lot of times when we're feeling stressed, we can really get in our own thoughts. And so kind of using something like that to calm us down and kind of just ground you can be really beneficial. Another one is progressive muscle relaxation. So this is one that you guys might have heard of before. But, just taking different parts of your body and tensing them up, tensing up those muscles, and then relaxing them, and then kind of going up or down your body however you want. So if you started with your feet, kind of holding that for 5 to 10 seconds, letting that go, tensing up your calves, holding that. That can be a really easy one to do during class or Zoom calls, whatever it is, because nobody has to know you're doing it. It can really be a thing that you do sitting down. And when you're done, kind of tensing everything up, kind of holding that and then letting it go, it can really be a good one to relax you. All right. So lastly, I know that as things kind of start to shut down, Zoom calls for those of you that are in school in person, as things kind of move online, like this meeting did, for example, it can be really hard to focus for long periods of time on online classes. Like, I feel you. I did online classes for the last few months of my master's at Valpo, and it was hard to kind of sit through that whole Zoom class and focus on that. So this can be, it's called the Pomodoro technique. It can be a really good way to balance focus with breaks. So the gist of this is doing focused work for 25 or 30 minutes and then taking a 5 to 10 minute break. And then kind of repeating, let's say 4 to 5 times, and then taking a longer break. So that can be a really good way to kind of break things down and force yourself to take those breaks. While you're working on homework, for example. This can be a really good one to pair with like a timer on your phone, for example, because I think kind of hearing that sound can be really beneficial sometimes to actually force yourself to get back to whatever task you're on, whatever assignment you're on, and then kind of forcing yourself to take that break. All right, so I know that the second one is a little bit blurry, so hopefully you guys can see that, but these are just a couple of cute little like quote pictures that I found recently. So first one, your worth is not measured by your productivity. So this is just something that I kind of like to remind myself of and kind of repeat to myself, because I think, in school and in kind of society, we can really beat up on ourselves if we don't feel like we're being productive or you didn't get enough done during the day. But just reminding yourself that your worth isn't how much you got done. And then the second one, I don't know if you guys can see that because I know for me it looks a little bit blurry, but it says doing your best might look different each day. And so knowing that this is a crazy time, and doing your best during COVID might not look the same as it would if COVID wasn't happening. So just keeping that in mind. Okay, so lastly, I just have some resources for you guys. So if you guys kind of throughout this whole thing, if you were thinking about those symptoms and you were thinking, okay, I experienced a lot of these, or you have a friend that does, just kind of knowing where to go can be a really tough thing when it comes to therapy and mental health. So just the suicide prevention lifeline is right there. They have a cool like chat feature now, where you don't have to call someone, because I know that calling people can be kind of intimidating. So they have that. But the biggest thing that I really wanted to focus in on, Psychology Today, if you feel like therapy would be beneficial for you, using that to kind of locate a therapist can be really beneficial, because I think kind of the search for finding therapy can be really intimidating. And so that's just a really good first go-to point to kind of filter by, different specialties and in your location and things like that. It has a cool little feature where you can kind of filter things out. So Lots of therapists are doing in-person sessions right now, so that can seem like something that's normal, like something that isn't really affected by COVID, but also a lot of us are doing sessions through video as well. So I know personally I'm doing both right now. And so it's really, I think, having both options makes things a little bit more accessible right now. So everyone kind of has a different setup, but just knowing that both of those options are there. All right, so I think that's about it for my slides and my part. Do you guys have any questions about anything? I know I threw a lot of information at you in kind of a short amount of time, but I just wanted to be mindful of your guys' time and your guys' meeting and stuff like that. So I know that it might have seemed a little bit quick and a lot of information, but do you guys have any questions about anything?
Well, if
Even
nobody,
like any thoughts about anything, any like questions, comments, anything like that.
I was gonna say, maybe we could, if nobody has any questions, run through the box breathing thing, as like a group. I think that might be a little beneficial. Get everybody kind of in a good state of mind.
For sure. Before we do that, do you guys have any questions, comments? All right, do you guys want to run through it? Perfect. So I will actually go back to that slide, if that's okay with you guys. And then you can kind of use that as like a nice guide to kind of run through some of that breathing stuff. All right. Can you guys see that slide again? Perfect. All right, so you guys could get like as comfortable as possible. I know that sometimes it's kind of hard to like breathe when you're sitting in an uncomfortable spot or whatever, so definitely just get comfortable. But I'll kind of lead you guys through some of the counting. So to start off, just breathe in for 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold at the top for 1, 2, 3, 4, and then exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then just rest at the bottom for 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so now that we've run through it once, we'll do it a couple more times. Okay, so inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold at the top, 1, 2, 3, 4, and exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then just rest. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we'll go through it one more time. So inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold at the top, 1, 2, 3, 4, and exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, and rest at the bottom for 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right. So I know we just did that a couple of times, but that's something that you guys can do. You guys can run through way more, if you're just doing it on your own. But how did you guys feel doing that just now?
relaxed.
I think it helps center you too.
Yeah,
It's
for
very
sure.
calming.
Yeah. Yeah. It can be a really good way to just like become more aware of your breathing, to kind of like MJ said, just center you, kind of just become more aware of your breathing and kind of get you out of some of those anxious thoughts, kind of that tenseness, that all up in your head type of stuff that we tend to get into. Any other questions or comments, you guys?
Put in the chat box that I do breathing like that. Sometimes I have too much in my head and I can't shut it off and I can't fall asleep at night. And breathing like that until I fall asleep helps. I fall asleep faster, like next thing I know, like it's morning, you know, it just helps me shut off and get to sleep. So that stuff really works, y'all. And Kelsey, thanks so much for being with us tonight. I really appreciate it. And I'm so proud whenever I see a former 4-H'er doing good things. So thanks for coming to chat with us.
Yeah, thank you guys. I don't know if you guys have any other questions about anything. I'm not sure if you guys wanted the slides or wanted any of like my contact information, because I know that sometimes it can be kind of intimidating to jump in during these Zoom calls and things like that. So I didn't know if like Joan or Shelby, you guys had a way to like share those. I guess you guys were recording the thing, so.
I did record it, and Kelsey, if it's okay with you, I'll make that available to 4-H'ers who couldn't come tonight.
Perfect.
Awesome. Yes, thank you again, Kelsey. I know I learned a lot. I thought it was very interesting with the like doing work on your bed can actually make you like stay more awake if you continue. I thought that was really interesting. So I need to quit doing my homework in bed, but yes.
It's okay. I'm definitely guilty of it. I'm guilty of looking at my phone in bed too. But you know, just trying to minimize the amount of time that we're doing that stuff can definitely be beneficial. You know, I'm not telling you guys to totally not do it at all. So, but yeah, I think that brain association with being awake in bed, that's something that was interesting to me too.
Awesome. Yes. Thank you again. So we have a few more things to go through with our regular meeting business. So just moving right down the agenda, we're going to go ahead and do a quick secretary's report with